Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969. And now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Shane Hurd, and Tara Diulis. Exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
It is Tuesday night, and I am so excited to be back. We've had a little bit of a hiatus here. I hope you guys have all been enjoying your summer. I know it's been like a heat wave across the country, so hopefully you're staying cool out there. Speaking of cool, we have some big changes in the show, and I'm excited to share all this with you. We have a fabulous new co-host, Shane Hurd, and I'm so excited he's going to be joining us. Unfortunately, we're going to be missing Chris DiPerno and Jerry and Jenna. They are moving actually this fall to a new show right here on KGRA, and I wish them the best on there. I actually prepared a little video about Chris DiPerno, and if we can just share that really quick before I get to the other intros, I would like to do that. So, Tara, if you can roll that Chris DiPerno.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm writing a Valentine's letter right now. So, excuse me. We got a great show for you tonight. I actually wrote a letter about the skunk. He said, "My dear Valentine, after 27 years of marriage, I wanted you to be recognized for all the great things you do. And saw this, and I wanted you to see how much I care for you on Valentine's Day. Therefore, I want to give you a skunk ape foot. Happy Valentine's Day."
Oh, Chris.
No. He wants popcorn. He's so excited about Kathleen Martin being on the show today. He wants popcorn and it gets him constipated, and I'm not going to go through that. So absolutely no popcorn for him. Jeez, the next day, the house, you got to go. I got to get the gas mask again. Anyways, I'm so excited about Kathleen Martin being on. She is.
And of course, there's funny, always keeps us laughing, Chris DiPerno, State Director of New York. Welcome, Chris.
Hello. I'm a little worried about Jerry. He started drinking.
Oh, no.
He's got a bottle of vodka. He says he won't do the show without it. He says he's very upset. He's got a bottle of vodka. He said the last guy that did all the chugging of the vodka, he wanted to try it, and now he's become a freaking alcoholic. I don't know. But anyways, best wishes for Jerry. Keep him in your prayers.
Oh, God. Poor Jerry.
He's an alcoholic alien. He's got to go to AA. Alcoholic alien. Get it? The alcoholic alien? AA.
Alcoholic alien. Oh, no. What are you drinking there, Chris? Let's bring on Chris DiPerno. He is the State Director for New York and is also on the ERT. And he is with special guests, are kind of like our silent fourth and fifth hosts, Jerry and Jenna. Welcome, Chris. How you been?
Hello. I'm just playing my little MUFON flying saucer there. Hey, Jenna's back. We found her.
We missed her.
They when they were looking for that thing in Lake Huron, she was bubbling to the top. They were able to pick her up. They got her back. Brought her back by the Postal Service was a little slow. That's why they actually got her a lot sooner. But
they mailed her.
They mailed her.
Oh,
they mailed her. You would have thought she came by Pony Express the way the mail.
Or UFO.
No, UFO was a lot faster. Hey, never sleet, rain, snow, but maybe
UFO.
An alien will stop the U.S. Postal Service. So anyway, she's back. Jerry's a little sad because he thought he was going to go out carousing this weekend, but I guess he's staying home.
He's feeling good too.
Except for it's still broke. He's still got a broken wing. And stuff like
little
that.
white cast.
He'll never go hot air ballooning again. That's for sure. Hey, we got a
Chris and Jerry and Jenna, and we wish you the best on UFO Crossfire that's coming this fall right here on KGRA. You are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by kgradb.com. I hope you get over to their website and check out all their awesome new content and all their old archive shows as well. There's so many great changes happening with KGRA, including some of the changes we're making here. And we're so excited to have Shane Hurd on with us too. As always, we are endorsed by MUFON. Like I said, I am your host, Katie Page, Colorado MUFON State Director. Tonight, we have a very special guest. So the next few weeks, I want to be basically highlighting and showcasing some of our speakers that we're going to be having up at the upcoming MUFON Symposium, which is just creeping up on us here. It's coming to Cincinnati, Ohio, August 24th through the 27th. So I hope to see you guys out there at the MUFON Symposium. Dr. Michael Masters will be one of our featured guest speakers there. And of course, there's a few spots still available for the field investigator training, which will be taking place on that Thursday. So I hope to see you all out at the symposium. Another event that's coming up I wanted to share is the Phenomicon. I have a lot of good friends that'll be speaking there out there in Vernal, Utah. That is September 6th through the 9th. And that is always a cool event out there talking about locations of high strangeness. So be sure to check that out as well. I would like to now bring in my wonderful co-host. We have Tara Diulis. You can see Tara on Sky Tour Live with Mark D'Antonio right here on KGRA. How you doing, Tara? What's the temperature like there in Arizona?
Oh, it's nice and warm. It's time to stay inside these days. But we had a little rain today, so it was nice. It was very
so that
cool.
cools things off. What's been the hottest temperature so far this summer?
I think it's been 116, 118. I think it's probably been hotter, but we've had a couple of those. So.
I don't want to brag, but literally, I almost turned on the heat last night up here in the Rocky Mountains. It was 57 degrees last night, and I'm thinking, this is great. And I was thinking about you.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Well, are you so excited? Uh-oh. Bill.
I got to jump in. In. Because when I went to Arizona, it was awesome Tara that picked me up at the airport.
Yes, we had fun.
And you mentioned the heat. I was like, oh my gosh. Insane. It's like so
it's
hot.
Insane.
It really is. It's like so hot. It's like it just blows on you. And you got to be in the shade. I was freaking out, but it was beautiful. Tara, thank you so much. It was awesome meeting you.
You too.
Shane Hurd.
Hurd.
Mm-hmm.
Stacy and everybody else while I was there.
It was so fun.
I also want to thank Chris DiPerno for his role here on the MUFON What's Up show. He will be missed for sure.
He will be missed.
But he's going to have an exciting show in the fall.
Yeah,
I can't wait to
sure is.
it.
So
I love debate. Who else is on UAP Crossfire, Bill?
Commander Cobra, who had a show on KGRA years ago, he took a hiatus because he's so busy. So he'll be on Don Ecker, the one and only Don Ecker, and Martin Willis.
That's going to be great.
Fantastic.
This is going to be an interesting panel show discussing the latest that's going on in the UAP field with these hearings that are going to be upcoming, because there's more.
Right. Yes.
And there's all this news that we're being overwhelmed with.
I know. It's an exciting time.
Did you guys hear about the articles? They were talking about it on Martin's show in Peru, 7-foot armored aliens. I was like, what the heck is going on? So, yeah.
Armored.
So congratulations for coming back, all of you. Shane, welcome to the MUFON What's Up family. And it was a pleasure meeting you as well. And looking forward to seeing you again soon. All right, I'm out of here.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Bill. All right. So like Bill said, we have Shane Hurd. I want to read his bio before we bring Shane on. Shane Hurd has spent his government career in the fields of civil engineering, geographic information systems, and information technologies, and is a graduate of Arizona State University's Certified Public Manager program. As a member of the Space Race Generation, he has been a lifelong space and science nerd, and sci-fi geek. Those words come directly from Shane, not me. I'm not calling him a nerd or a geek.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him.
It was a Phoenix Lights incident in his hometown of Phoenix, Arizona, that sparked his interest in ufology. Since that time, he has studied the subject, and ultimately in 2015, he joined MUFON. He became a field investigator in 2017. He is now a STAR team member and an ERT team member, which is the Experiencer Resource Team. And he was recently appointed the Assistant State Director of Arizona MUFON for Phoenix. In June 2020, he published his first book entitled Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, A Beginner's Guide to Researching UFOs. He is a musician, a car guy, an amateur astronomer, a horse owner, enjoys a good bourbon now and again, and is now our esteemed co-host, Shane Hurd. Welcome to the show and welcome to MUFON What's Up. We're so excited to have you here. And let's not forget the awesome beard and mustache, which is his signature look.
Well, thanks a lot, you guys. I mean, it's a total privilege and honor to be part of this. I'm so excited for it. I know we're going to have some fun. However, I'm not as funny as Chris. I mean, sorry.
Oh, that's not true. I don't believe that for a second. We are still going to have a grand old time on this show. There's always something lighthearted to talk about. I know this is a serious topic, but come on, if you can't kick up and have a little fun. I mean, come on, being a car guy and a bourbon drinking, we know you have some.
Yeah.
That's your talking to,
our guest and I have some history on that too. So.
Oh, awesome. We're going to have to pick his brain.
That's great.
That's awesome. So Tara, what do you have to kick us off tonight?
Well, like our guest today, today's meme deals with the subject of time travel. And so as you can see here, the primitive scientists are hooting excitedly as they successfully try out their new time log. So you see the cavemen on a log. Oh my God, they went into the future. So we'll have to ask Dr. Masters, because I don't think that's possible going into the future, but really fun.
And those guys didn't turn into the Greys. They're still like sporting the caveman look. Yeah. That would be me on the back of the log, like exhausted.
Boy, that tunnel is hard to go through.
That's funny.
That's great.
Good one.
Well,
good one.
Yeah, it's cool. So found on Etsy, I have these found on Etsy are these alien head pennies, and they're charms that can be worn as a pin or a pendant, and they're individually crafted by a skilled artisan. And these, along with anything else, can be found on Etsy, and they're about $26 a piece. So make sure you check that out, and fun little gifts for friends.
I needed to get one of those for is it the Mega Millions tonight? That's like one of the highest jackpots. Everybody have their tickets?
No.
Do we all vow that if any of us here on the show wins it, we're spreading the wealth?
Okay, yes.
The love, the wealth. All right.
Hopefully it's the lot of the wealth and stuff. So, but if we're wealthy, we got to make sure that we stay hydrated, right? So an important reminder in this desert heat, there you go, Katie. Water is so important to our health, and you can become dehydrated so quickly, right? So hydrate your cells and boost your immune system, and choose your flavor of Fuel Up, and use the handy shaker and drink to good health. They have wake for morning, play for during the day, and rest for rejuvenation. So you can visit our website at fuelup.gg/MUFON, fuelup.gg/MUFON, sorry about that, and find out all the offers that they have. So it's really cool. So
that stuff does get you going in the morning. I have some in my cupboard, and when I'm feeling extra drowsy, like the caveman on the log, slam down some Fuel Up.
Nice.
It's awesome. So I want to ask Shane, what have you heard? What's going on today? What have you heard lately?
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. So have you guys heard that on July 26, 2023, the highly anticipated congressional hearing held by the subcommittee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs featured testimony of 2 former U.S. Navy pilots and a former intelligence officer who work with the UAP task force. I think we got a little clip of that too. Want to check
If you
that out?
believe we
Roll it.
have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, Biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Wow, you guys are muted.
I'm not muted.
Shane is muted.
I think Shane's muted. Shane, let's unmute Shane here. Let's see.
Can you do that?
I think
There
I
we
can.
go. There you
there
go,
we go.
Shane.
All right, now we can hear you, Shane. Nope, we're still muted there. I wonder what.
Well, what do you think about that, Katie?
Well, hold on. Let's try and get him unmuted. Unmute
Yeah.
Mike. What in the heck? Oh,
There
there
you
we go.
go.
All right. Okay. Nobody touch
Nobody
anything.
touch the mics.
I do have a ghost in the
Yeah.
house lately. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm not
No,
even
not-
joking. I'm being serious.
Shane
I
does
think it's
too.
infecting Shane. All right. So Shane, what do you think about the hearings? He's muted again. I'm telling you, I'm not touching anything.
I'm not touching it. Let's see.
Weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
Tara. Okay, there he is.
The congressional hearing went off, and when I observed it, I thought that each of the witnesses gave good answers to what I thought were some pretty good questions. And from that whole thing, there are a lot of takeaways, but I was just going to highlight 3 that I thought were pretty good. And the first being
good.
that of government transparency. And I think that's really important. And I think Tim Burchett, the one of the panel members there, he said that this is an issue of transparency. And if we can't trust a government that doesn't trust its people. So I think this is a good lesson for us in ufology. We're kind of focused on the UFO part, but it's good for us to be aware that politicians see this in a slightly different way. And this is one of the big issues to them, is that transparency. Yeah. And I think that's a real down-to-earth issue that we all, are affected by and can get behind. So I thought that was one thing that was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
The other one is flight safety. And flight safety, not just from a military perspective, because we know both Ryan Graves and Dave Fravor were commenting on that. And it's important for those military pilots, of course, but I've always thought all along that isn't this a big issue for the commercial airline industry?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we're talking millions of flights a year, and those planes don't have 2 people in them. They have 200 or 300 or 500. I mean, the potential for disaster is so great there. And so I was really glad to see that someone like Ryan Graves, now that he retired, he's pushing the issue forward. And he started an advocacy organization called Americans for Safe Aerospace. And I think that's a pretty important issue. And then also, Dave Fravor, he had commented that on the case that he saw in the 2004 Nimitz case, the so-called Tic Tac video, he says that what he saw defies current material science. And I think that's pretty accurate. If you can imagine hundreds of G-forces on whatever that craft was or whatever those materials are, do we even have anything that could sustain that? And then he said, this to him was one of the most important UFO sightings in history. And he wanted to make the point that not only were there radar systems and optical cameras and these other things, they had 4 sets of human eyeballs on that thing. So in his mind, that was a very strong case. And I agree when you have that kind of support. And he just said, I want everyone to know that this is not a joke. And so coming from someone of his caliber, I appreciated, that sort of certainty on his part. And then the last thing, of course.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll hold my questions till the end.
Okay, yeah, because I want to know what you guys think. The last thing was just obviously the big important one, and it's the potential reality of others, right? So Dave Grush, he's a whistleblower behind this. There is a process called a PPD-19 urgent concern filing that he filed with the intelligence community, in fact, the inspector general there. And what he said during that hearing when he came forward, that, you know, it was based on credible information others had conveyed to him about an alleged government program involved in the recovery of craft of non-human origin. And then he really went there when he also said that non-human biologics were also recovered. So that's pretty fantastic, right? And these are the things that the UFO community has felt were accurate for a very long time. But now we're getting some whistleblower testimony, and it's not just Dave Grush, there's others. And now I know the one thing that frustrated people was that often he had to say, hey, I can't comment on that, have to be in a skiff, or, you know, it's classified. And that is frustrating. But just know this, that through that formal process of submitting that PBD 19, that, you know, his leadership had to approve this, the inspector general had to approve this, and he has provided names, dates, places, corporations, the things that we would probably consider proof or extremely strong evidence. It's there. We just can't see it yet. And so I'm hoping that in time, either through declassification, perhaps a leak or some other means, that we're going to get better and more information that supports these claims. But the bottom line is pretty fantastic. I'm looking for the proof, you know, for that to come. And when it does, I'll be as thrilled as anyone. But anyways, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I was happy to hear Fravor say, you know, I think that was it 30 pilots he said that came forward, but he made it clear that there were hundreds more. You know, they're just focusing on that. And I'm glad that he made that clear, because, I mean, just go look at our historical documents, and we have boxes of pilot reports that have been seen for decades. So I'm glad that he made a point to say that. I thought great questions were asked and answered. Yeah. So I think it's another important step. What do you think, Tara?
Well, I agree with everything you guys have said. I was impressed with the intelligence of the questions and how it seemed like everybody was basically involved. It wasn't like they were at the meeting and thought it was ridiculous. They took it seriously. And what I also is exciting to me is I want to know about the gray cubes inside the clear spheres.
Right.
And you know, I want to know what they're seeing and more information about that. And he talked about the Tic Tacs, and they didn't really have any manner of propulsion, but if you looked at it closely, you could see two little things on the back of the object. So we don't know what that was. And so if this information does come out, there's so much cool stuff we could learn from it and grow from, I think.
Right.
Be neat.
I mean, they say a clear sphere, but they're obviously seeing something that they can identify a sphere or a cube within a sphere. So right. I like you, Tara, found that fascinating. We have, through MUFON, gotten reports of these cubes and, you know.
I've had one of a cube, yeah.
Yeah, the cube. So I found that interesting as well. I also thought it was interesting, though, that they said they weren't really debriefed or questioned, and that made me automatically think, well, maybe they're not getting debriefed or questioned because somebody high up knows maybe it's ours. Maybe we do have that technology, and it's just a handful of people are in the know. So there's always that angle too. I don't know. Well, it's all pretty exciting.
Well, isn't there? See, they talked about a group of 8 or something that these programs we don't know about, and the Congress doesn't know about because everything's supposed to be passed through them if they're doing something, and that is in lieu of going to Congress. And it seems like there's an issue there, and so I'd like to know more about that. So anyways, it was great. It's fantastic that the discussion's out there, and personally that's the most interesting discussion I've seen on it in a long, long, long time.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, Shane, for bringing that discussion up. It's important, and just another step on that long road we are all on.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So let's see. I think I have a quick case of the week.
Oh, good.
And then Tara, I think you have some exciting news. And then we're going to bring on our special guest, Dr. Masters, here in a moment.
Awesome.
But so I have a friend that actually did this case out there in Arizona, actually. So this is case of the week. It's case number 130623. It was a category 1 case. It occurred on April 26, 2023 at 8:05 p.m. by Lake Havasu, in Arizona. And basically, they were looking in the dark sky and noticed a white orb flying west to east at an undetermined altitude. It had no blinking navigation lights and was flying at a slower speed than commercial aircraft. I filmed it with my phone camera and zoomed in. Now, what I want to say, a little hint for all those, if it's okay to zoom in on objects, and Shane, you wrote the book on this, so you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you're going to zoom in, zoom out too, so we get a good estimate, like, so you can see the housetops and the tree tops and those kind of things, because this one's pretty zoomed in. But what's interesting about this one, there was another case that same day, an hour and a half earlier, that also traveled in the same direction, so around Lake Havasu. But it was a V formation, so it could have shapeshifted. I don't know. But the fact that there were two is kind of interesting. The flight radar showed no planes in the area, no satellites or anything like that. So this was closed as a unknown light anomaly in the sky. So if we can run that video, I have one, and then I slowed it down for number 2.
All right.
The house, so you can see it a little bit better with a little bit lightened. That second video there, it's a bit shorter. I cut it down. Enhanced, I think it says.
You're muted, Katie. There you are. So strange. Everybody's muted. Shane, you're there. There you go.
I'm here. Yep.
All right.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's something going on. Welcome,
Yeah, so-
Shane.
Now Shane's muted again. What did you think, Tara, of the video?
Well, I thought it was strange because it's hard to tell because you didn't have like the building below, but I liked the end of it, and at the end of it, you could say, "Oh, that is strange." You know,
Right,
at the
yeah.
beginning, you don't really know, so kind of cool.
Exactly. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, it's good to have in an image like that some of the foreground or background so that you can kind of interpret scale, right? Because if you just see a white light on a black background, say that 3 times fast, it's really hard to understand how large it is and how fast it's moving and all that stuff. So yeah, it's really great. I agree with you, Katie. It's good to zoom in if you can, but to zoom back out as well. And just, think of yourself as you're collecting data that can be analyzed in an investigation. And so the more that you can collect, the better it is. So yeah, that's a good case. And I mean, think of how many lights in the sky cases do we get? I mean, it's constant, right?
Yeah, here's another note, and I think this is important too, is to look at the credibility of the witness. So this witness was in the Air Force for 11 years,
Wow.
went to college, and also was a police officer in California for 22 years and is now retired. So you also want to look at the credibility of a witness in this case. So he's a pretty good observer, I would say, being in the Air Force for all those years. So yeah, kind of interesting. I think he would recognize maybe what a satellite or a traditional aircraft would be. So kind of anomalous, you know. And I can't wait next week. Just a little teaser here. A big wave of sightings in Texas. So I'm going to try and get some together for that next week. But Tara, do you have, so the MUFON Mars project was the MUFON Archive Research and Redacting Team, and Tara was a part of that. And there's going to be some news about that. Do you want to share that, Tara?
Oh, yes. I'm so excited because the Mars Archives and Historical Cases are going to be released for research later this year. And it was such an interesting project to be a part of. And it took us a few years to redact thousands of digitized files. And what I have for you today is a glimpse of what's to come. So this is a little teaser. Here is a case that occurred in Illinois in December of 1978. It's a historical case, but we have a newspaper article that reports a sighting by 2 junior high school students who were driving along a major highway when they noticed a bright light in the sky. Well, we happen to have the Mars case that file goes along with. So that's what's cool about the Mars project. There's all sorts of different pieces that go into them, and they're all from very historic files. So these girls saw a tube-like object about the size of a commercial airplane. And here is the witness sketch that was attached to the report, which is very cool. And I noticed if you turn it the other way, it kind of looks like a telephone pole, which is interesting. But it was a tube-like object. You see that? So, and then there's that's how they drew it. So I believe where it says white lights is the leading edge of it. And there's the pole. Okay, so
interesting.
Isn't that interesting? So they watched the object. They saw the object they were driving, and the object moved in closer to the car. And here is the sketch they drew of that event. They stated that it crossed over their path, turned around a short distance, and then returned to their vehicle. And from a distance of about 10 to 15 feet above the car, the object made a complete circle over their heads, and then it shot off across the horizon and was gone in just a couple seconds.
Well, telephone poles don't do that.
No, they don't, unless there's a big spark of, what is it, gigawatts or electricity?
Maybe it's tornado.
Yeah, could have been, but apparently it was clear that in Calm that day, by the way. The investigation revealed that the girls were reliable witnesses and who were truly fearful of the incident. So it was very cool. So you can look for more information about the release of these Mars archives and historical cases at the upcoming MUFON Symposium. So
woohoo! That's going to be some big, exciting news. Little teaser.
Fun cases.
Well, thank you guys.
Stuff.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Tara.
Yeah,
what do you guys think? I think it's time to bring in Dr. Michael Masters. I'm so excited. Let me read his bio and bring him in on. Let's do it. All right. Dr. Michael Masters is a professor of biological anthropology at Montana Technological University in Butte, Montana. His current research program centers on hominin evolutionary anatomy, human variation, archaeology, biomedicine, and investigating the UFO phenomenon. Regarding the latter, in 2019, he published Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to the UFO phenomenon, which examines the premise that UFOs and aliens may be our human descendants, returning from the future to visit and study their own hominin evolutionary past. In 2022, he published the Extraterrestrial Model, which analyzes well-documented cases of abduction and other contact modalities in the context of this time travel hypothesis and other theories put forth to elucidate that this complex and mysterious this complex and mysterious phenomenon. His most recent book, Revelation, The Future Human Past, again focuses on UFOs in the framework of this extraterrestrial model, but in the format of a satirical time travel science fiction novel. So that's his new book right there, Revelation, The Future Human Past. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Michael Masters.
MUFON people, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's up,
Good to see you
MUFON?
Yeah.
I ain't chunking no more. I worked out my leg. Just switched back to my old camera for.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I
Old
saw you
times
disappeared
sake.
there for a minute, but I just thought it was part of the mysterious.
Well, no, that was actually a
ghost
brief
we have.
abduction scenario. I was
Yeah, it was
on
a
board a
brief
craft for
abduction.
about 15, 20 minutes. But it's the opposite of missing time. Like I was actually there for 3 hours, but only felt like 15.
Well,
That'll be the next book.
I'm so happy we grabbed you for our first episode back and our first episode here with
Yeah,
the one and only
congrats,
Shane
welcome
Hurd.
back.
I heard the two of
Ooh.
you were like cruising around in your convertible,
Yeah.
throwing back some whiskey. Is that
Well, not-
right? Do we
not
have a
in the
picture of that terror?
convertible.
Not in
Not
the
at the same
no.
time.
Oh, yes.
No, those were
I'm
two
getting
separate
there.
Let's show
Hold
that.
on. Hold on. Why can't I see it?
Convertible,
There it is.
then whiskey.
There they are.
That's
Look at
good.
them.
There it is.
Ha ha.
That's great.
Yeah, and that was
Nasty.
just before it got like 150 degrees out. So we beat the heat.
Yeah,
right?
that was actually a nice day. It was only like 110 that day, I think.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah, it
weather.
was- Mhm. It is
Phoenix
pretty good.
metro area. Yeah, no, two bourbon guys in the Camaro. That was a fun talk. It was a fun
With your
day.
shades.
Good.
Yeah.
With the shades, yeah.
With the shades on. That's
Straight
awesome.
pimping.
That's
Cool
awesome.
dudes. Yeah.
So you're going to be one of our featured speakers at this year MUFON Symposium. So you're not only going to be with the three of us, MUFOnians, but a whole bunch. So I kind of wanted to start you out, Dr. Masters, with kind of, what your presentation, what you're going to be talking about there. And if you can give us a sneak peek.
Well, the title, because as you're aware, the whole topic at this year's symposium is friend or foe, which I feel is a very important question. And it it's kind of comes up from time to time with the threat narrative and somewhat benevolent things these beings seem to do. So I think it's cool that we're focusing on that entirely, especially because there's a lot of people that are probably paying attention for the first time and are, they grew up watching all of the movies about alien invasions and whatnot. So I know that's been in the mind of a lot of people I've met, and numerous ones have told me, if they are us from the future, then I no longer fear an alien invasion. It sort of helped calm some fears that people had from childhood, simply because, if they're us, why would they attack us? Why would they kill us? So there's a number of questions. We can't just look at the phenomenon with rose-tinted glasses. There are negative things that happen, but I'll be looking at some sort of anecdotal stuff to some extent, some things people have told me in their personal experience, but also we can learn a lot from, statistical analyses that have been carried out on this too. Like I talk about the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Free study, for instance, and what they found related to the valence of these interactions, if they are positive or negative. So yeah, I'm not fully on the side of friend, which is why the title of my presentation is Friend? ? Because I don't know. Nobody knows. But the things I'm going to lay out sort of seem to indicate that they are more friendly than not. And obviously, it's hard to summarize all of those in a brief synopsis like this. But hopefully people will come. I think it's going to be a really great conference all around.
I agree.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Masters, so let's talk about this. You're proposing that the biological entities, I guess, or the biological things in these crafts might be our descendants from the future. And in your book, I thought it was interesting, and I'm wondering if you can just touch on that, because why would someone from our future want to come back to our past when they probably couldn't go back home again? And what is the thoughts on that? And is that really a theoretical possibility that that's what's happening?
Well, no, I think travel through time is the same as traveling through space, especially in the block universe model, which is the most conventional model among philosophers and physicists with regard to how time space works. They're sort of inseparable. But if you can move to the past, you can move to the future. In fact, that's sort of the opposite of what a lot of people get hung up on, is that we haven't yet proven how to move to the past, but moving to the future is easy. For instance, Scott Kelly, when he was in the International Space Station for a year, moved ever so slightly into the future just because of less gravity close to Earth, because that does cause gravitational time dilation and slows time down relative to others. So yeah, if we could travel at very high speed relative to the speed of light, or hang out next to a black hole or large supermassive object, then we would age more slowly and therefore would go into the future of everyone else in global space time. But no, I think it's actually probably going to happen sooner than later. And if we are reverse engineering these craft, they clearly have the ability to manipulate space time, or engineer the space time metric, is how Puthoff says. Because the G-forces, for instance, I don't think it'd be possible to withstand those G-forces unless they were manipulating space-time around these craft. Like what we see is this, 10,000 miles an hour instant right turn, or acceleration, deceleration. Probably inside the craft, they feel nothing at all. And it probably helps them fly circles around us. I think it's one of the reasons why the threat narrative doesn't make a lot of sense. It's really out. I think a lot of that is because they're manipulating space-time in what Jim Penniston called a sphere of influence around these craft. And there's so many other cases that I talk about in my second book, especially where clearly time is moving at a different rate in proximity to these machines. You have people like Corporal Armando Valdez. They found that the trees in and around where Travis Walton was abducted grew at an increased rate. Linda Jones in Manchester, UK, she sees the grass growing very rapidly right below her feet as she's running from this thing. So there's a lot of indications that they do manipulate space-time, and it's probably an intricate and highly integrated aspect with their propulsion system, partly because of the G-forces thing, but for other reasons as well. So I think once we start flying these things, and they've probably figured out already that they're time machines. I posted something on Twitter the other day about Commander George Hoover, who called them that. He said, we're talking about this thing that's more likely extratemporal. It's a time machine, and the beings inside are most likely even us from the future on the same planet. So even back in 1947, people were starting to recognize that, and Herman Oberth and others involved in the Roswell crash recognized that characteristic. So we have this expression that form follows function, and they could see, with no knowledge of what this thing is, that the form of it indicated the function of backward time travel capabilities. And then obviously the beings look like us. But just real quick, and I'm getting long-winded here, to circle back to your original question, I don't think the beings inside are always future humans. And I talked about this in both my books, that there seemed to be some division where some are more like robots, droids, and some may even be biologically engineered droids. So they're human-like, but maybe not entirely human, how we would classify a human, which I think plays in to the classification scheme they've been using for these congressional hearings, what Grush said over and over, or what he said with Nancy Mace, I think was her name, that the assessment was, and he was kind of tenuous on this, but the assessment was they were non-human based on photographs, and then he threw out the skiff thing again. But I think there's a good chance that if you're, and maybe, they sent this back to Crash. Maybe that was that spark that started this whole thing that becomes us, that we send back. Who's going to volunteer to do that? So I think even if the creatures inside were biologics, they had human-like characteristics, no doubt about that, but they could have been biologically engineered. And then the next question is, well, who made them? And because of the time characteristics of these ships, I think it was probably future humans that made them. Nobody volunteered to go back and die in this thing. So they sent these very human-like looking things, which in reverse engineering the technology, maybe we're figuring out a lot about genetic engineering too, from what we find out from the genetics of these things that were probably structured from our own genome. So I think there's I've had to evolve my thinking on this a lot lately because there's a lot going on. But I do think future humans are at the root of it. But I think there's also other things going on.
Dr. Michaels or Masters, you it's kind of hard for a lot of people.
Please call me Mike. Jesus,
okay, Mike. That's
I'm Mikey.
That's easier. So, a lot of people have trouble getting their head around the concept of time travel. One of the things they point out is I think it's called the grandfather paradox. Could you comment on that and how, your theory works around that?
Well, it's not even my theory works around that. It's how the universe works around that. And I actually went back and read some sections from my first book. I finished it today, partly because I've been listening to some of the stuff that's been coming out of my mouth. And I was like, whoa, kind of toward a metaphysical realm, that I didn't expect to be at. And that book was very reductionist, materialistic, but still kind of, pushed into the consciousness realm and Eastern mysticism and whatnot, because I think it's very highly integrated. But one thing I realized from going back through those sections on time travel is that, and I recommend everybody read it. I come back to it at the end of my second book as well. The last 2 chapters talk about the block universe model, because it's not just my theory. It's not my idea about how time works. I took what we have now and tried to inform the best I could how it relates to this phenomenon. But obviously we're missing things. Physicists now, astrophysicists, they still don't know what time is. It's an emergent phenomenon. We don't know what is fundamental that emerges from. So all of us are kind of at this place where we're like, well, we're figuring it out. But the block universe model does make sense. And I didn't talk at all about the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. I circled back to that in my second book, because I think it is important, especially in the context of cataclysms and things like that. But as far as the block universe model goes, there is no paradox. There's no consistency paradoxes when you go back, because you're not changing anything. To answer your question, Shane, you only get paradox when there's change. And in the block universe model, you can't change anything because you're going back and doing what you've always already done. Those moments are structured as highly integrated pieces across the fabric of space-time, and you're just fulfilling what you were always going to do in that moment. The only reason it looks like you're changing something is because of how you perceive it in your own mind. You're like, oh, I'm going back to the past. Obviously, I'm going to change something. That past already happened. That past already exists prior to you ever going back and doing it. All you're doing is going back and interjecting the thing that's already there. You're just walking through, fulfilling those moments. You get home, everything's the same because nothing changed. You just did what you were always going to do at that time. And it's this very simple, logical explanation for the universe that, again, almost all philosophers and physicists outside the many worlds interpretation camp, they all adhere to it. And it makes sense. You don't see it in movies very often because it's harder to write a script around that, but it's most likely the way the universe works.
Right. Wow. Yeah. My mind is blown. First of all, I want to commend you, Mike, that you actually go back, and some people believe that once you put something out there and you write something in a book that you have to believe that forever. And I really admire the fact that you went back, reread some of your stuff, and maybe have a change of heart about some different things. So that's quite number one. Yeah.
Well, hang on. Let me comment on that real quick. I put a lot of those in the second book too, and not just from stuff that I realized, but things people told me. Things that I overlooked that seemed obvious once I was informed about that. Indeed, that one right there, the extra tempestural amount. And I didn't write it only because of that, but it was a good chance to say, oh, wow, I overlooked this. That was dumb. How did I not realize? And I call myself out on it, put it in this book, did it again with this last book. And going back and listening to the first book after 4.5 years, it's like, yeah, I mean, it still holds. It holds up. And I think it even bolsters a lot of what we're seeing. But I've evolved my perception of all of it tremendously since then. So it was kind of good to go back to those roots a little bit.
Well, I admire you for that. Speaking of evolution, I mean, we all evolve, and that's why we're all here, is to continue to learn and grow. And for you to actually look back and make those changes is very commendable. But my question to you, talking about these timelines, and the past is already written, so we can't go back. What about the multiverse where, there's a Katie back in the past that made SpaghettiOs on August the 11th, and then there's one that made a steak? I mean, what do you make of that theory as well? The multiverse where there's, instead of my water in here, I do have a bourbon. I mean, and on and on and on. What do you think of that?
And maybe, in that universe, I have water instead of bourbon. I wouldn't want to live in that multiverse.
Who's a smart one in this show?
I was hoping Shane would have one with me, but it's the first show ever, so
right here.
I figured it's probably.
I got the whole jug.
The whole bottle. Who's to say I'm not lying?
It could be a Long Island iced tea. I don't know.
We're all raging alcoholics.
It's an important question, and like I said, I didn't even talk about it in my first book because there's no evidence whatsoever. It's all theoretical. It's all mathematics, and we shouldn't discount that because a lot of theories do eventually come to grow into something that is more tangible than just whatever a physicist pulls out of their ass at any given time. But the issue is that then we do get into change. And then we get into situations, we have a bifurcation of the timeline. And a lot of people in this camp think that even just dipping into the past, the second you land or break into that place, you create quantum decoherence and separate timelines. You create that branching. It's, and in this theory, everything's possible. There's us and all these different iterations. There's millions of universes without us even in them. There's also issues with the law of conservation of mass. How do you have the entire universe recreate itself? How does it become two separate things from one thing? You can't have mass become something else without being reformed from the mass that came before. So there's a lot of issues with it, not just in the context of theory. String theory seems to have sort of had an ebb and flow, and it's got us closer and then it's been pulled back. But really, it just comes down to the simplest explanation. And that's what I've tried to do with this theory as a whole, is offer up sort of an Occam's razor approach with regard to the fact that we know we're here. We know we've had this long evolution, physiologically, morphologically, technologically. It's been an acceleration. It's likely to continue accelerating. And, it doesn't interject extraterrestrials. It doesn't interject things other than what we know from our deep past. So it was the same thing with taking a stance and joining the very large group. Again, it's the most conventionally held notion of how the universe works, joining the block universe camp and saying, actually, this really does make sense with regard to what we see with the UFO phenomenon. So it's not that I completely write it off. I also don't write off extraterrestrials or any of the other theories. I'm going to post in a couple of days my MUFON Phoenix talk that I just got in the mail the other day, where it's the first hour is entirely about that. Maybe they're all the same thing. We're just missing one very important variable that ties it all together.
So, do you think that you had kind of touched on this before, but maybe you could elaborate. If they're coming back in time and it is us, it seems like it would make most sense that they would send artificial intelligence, AI, and like you said, these constructed perhaps biological beings or something. And it kind of poses the question that I've heard a lot of people ask, what if we already are AI? And, is it necessarily not us from the future if these are our these AI organic beings? I mean, it could be us, right? Or
yeah, I mean, at that point, it really just comes down to how we define human. Like to this point, we can see a very clear evolutionary trajectory through, bifurcating from other mammals about 65 million years ago, going up into the trees. Everyone else stayed in the trees. Gorillas more or less came down because they had to, because they're huge. But we came down intentionally and stayed down. We're the only habitual biped. And that took place about 6 or 8 million years ago. I feel like Bill's counting us down to something. Do we have a break?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a break in 3 miles. Yeah, 3 minutes to break.
3 minutes. All right, cool. Thanks, Bill. I just saw
Nothing
that.
to worry.
I thought it was seconds because I was seeing it. I was like, I cannot wrap this up in 3 seconds. No, it's good. I'm glad you did.
You're good.
So yeah, 3 minutes. Easy peasy. So we see that this evolution is happening. It's going to happen. We see elements of what we're doing now with our culture and physiology and our physical evolution evolving to culture environments. Could easily understand how they're doing that too, but with better capabilities to manipulate our genome, better abilities to manipulate their own genome, to hybridize with us if we are the same species, and then to use AI for some of the dirty work. Like a lot of the small grays are thought to be these sort of lifeless but biologically consciously controlled droids of sort, or actual robots, like in the Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker case in Pascagoula, where they were taken by an actual robot, that didn't have any physical characteristics consistent with the human. So I don't think we should expect them all to look the same. They don't look the same, but I do think we can still look at it through the lens of the future, even looking back into our own past with our own future perceptions, and start to wrap our heads around some of the nuances of this phenomenon.
Very cool.
That's an excellent answer. And since we have just, another minute or two before break, I'm going to use this time to talk about your 3 books really quickly. The first book, Tara, if you want to put that up, Identified Flying Objects, a multidisciplinary scientific approach to UFO phenomenon. And the second book, this one, and this is the one are they all on audiobook, Mike? I think they all are.
The first two. I just hired some voice actors who are currently doing the voices for the third. I can't do it all myself because there's like 10 characters, but
I thought you
the first
did an
two, and
job.
I read them and produced them myself because people seem to prefer that.
I've been listening to that second one. I was very impressed that you narrated that yourself. I'm like, holy cow, that's fabulous. And produced.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Nice.
How many takes did that take you? Because I literally, you heard my intro. I can't even read a paragraph without messing it up.
I threw extra tempestrial in there twice just to mess with you.
Exactly.
Thank you for
You're
that.
welcome.
Good job.
Yeah.
No, I
appreciate it.
estimated I probably read the whole book about 15 times in recording that, because it's not just you screw something up. Like there's these pops. When you use a high quality mic, there's all kinds of little sounds. The first one I did in my office, so there's students walking by, banging against the window. So you can cut those out if it's during a breath. You can't cut them out when you're talking. So there's just dogs barking, chickens, lawnmowers. Oh my God.
I commend you for that. So it is break time. We will see you on the other side of the break. Hang in there, and I want to talk more about AI.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy.
I'm taking for the play. I'm gonna take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
To dance again. I miss doing that. Okay, we are back. So, can everybody hear me okay?
I can hear you. None of us are muted except Shane.
Big time.
Just Shane's muted again.
Shane.
That ghost.
Shane's always muted.
There's a ghost in Shane's box.
You and
the
I
Twilight
have
Zone for Shane.
hitchhiker effect him.
So back to the AI question. I think it's an excellent question because I have a specific question for you. So
Okay, hang on. I left my fan on.
Uh-oh. He left his fan on? Is that what he said? Okay, so back on the ranch, the high strangest ranch of Colorado from my childhood days, there was this that was drawn. Okay, these
Creepy.
strange looking. I call them the Tubi guys now. Somebody asked me on a podcast if I ever named him, but he's Tubi guy for now. But he's kind of an AI guy. And my question for you, well, I have two questions, two-part question. Do you think that they could be coming back in time, meaning the AI type, maybe they're partially AI? Are they coming back to maybe change where we're headed with AI? Maybe, do you know what I'm saying? Like trying to change or alter the timeline. And is that possible? I mean, and if that's the case, would they be sort of kind of changing the way what they become? Maybe we don't like what we become and we're trying to go back and change it, I guess is what I'm trying to ask you.
Oh, interesting.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, as per my previous email, you can't change anything, at least as far as we understand it now, in the block universe model. But it is possible. And, this was batted around for a while by Frank Milburn and Ross Coulthart, that there are competing factions, and one's coming back to stop a cataclysm. Another group is, trying to let it happen because their existence is dependent on that, which was a very big part of my last book, because it's a really interesting storyline. But you could bring it into this question of the block universe and the many worlds interpretation. And only in that many worlds interpretation can you have that change. But then you also run into the issue, and I didn't mention this earlier when I was comparing the two theories, is how do you get back to your timeline? If they're jumping among timelines, which one is theirs? Which one do they want to live in? Do they just abandon their old timeline? We'll say, screw this. We're going to go back and make one change so that this new timeline's great. And everybody's like, no, don't do that. We live here. This is our timeline. We have families and stuff. I don't know if you have FCC rules or not. So yeah, I mean, that interjects change. Anytime you have change, you get paradox. And so that's a big question. Are they trying to do that? I remember the Nolan fella, Gary Nolan, said at that SALT conference, mentioned this too, that some could be time travelers, some could be AI. Question then, who made the AI? Because they don't just make themselves, fish making AI out there, but there's still probably humans making them. But once they do have enough control over their existence, yeah, they could be doing all the same things that we're doing. If they sort of acquire something akin to consciousness, which seemingly all living things have, potentially all matter has consciousness, since it's mostly empty space and is probably that bridge to the other side, so to speak. But yeah, I don't know if part of it is autonomously or if they are doing the bidding of the future humans still. And in the Pascagoula case, it certainly seemed like that. In the Whitley Strieber case, the ones that initially abducted him in his bedroom, he likened to sort of robotic small grays with, like a breastplate for protection and stuff like that. But a lot of people describe them as not really having that soul. Meanwhile, the taller grays, the Nordics, whatever the hell you want to call them, they're all probably versions of humans in some respect. They have a very deep soul penetrating consciousness that is likely where we're going. We already see that. We already see that with the way we've evolved over time, with the way our consciousness and empathy has evolved. And I think that's a big part of where we're at right now with these divisions in societies. We have empathetic people and we have selfish people. There's ones that see ourselves and others and have largely, experienced ego death in some respect, not just because of psychedelics or because of near-death experiences, but they just realize that we're part of something bigger. Meanwhile, other people are focused on vengeance and selfishness and, and our world struggles because of that, because of the tragedy of the commons and many other things related to it. So, I think that in the future we'll become the highly empathetic, highly conscious beings and maybe even imbue some of these robots, these AI, with certain aspects of that, if it is possible.
Wow, really good answer.
That's amazing.
I'm going to start giving you stop saying that.
We're hearing a lot about AI, even today, and people are, very concerned about it and its impact. And, is this something that we could fear? What's kind of your take about our current position with AI and where it could go?
Yeah, I think my current view is mostly structured from memes that I see. I'll go ahead and put that out there. Most of my view of reality is structured on funny memes. So I follow some really funny.
I think that's the
makers.
Majority of us.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm just
you
gonna
gotta laugh.
I'm going to admit it. But yeah, the most recent one that cracks me up is how we were told that robots would save us from manual labor, and now they're writing the poems and the movies and the books, and we're all stuck doing that stuff, which isn't the future any of us wanted. And it's probably a big part of why the writer's strike's gone on so long, because all of the coders are like, all right, we don't need these writers anymore and those writers anymore. So yeah, it sucks in that respect. As far as like iRobot, Will Smith scenarios where we're going to develop a robot that comes up and slaps Chris Rock across the face at the Grammys or something. I don't know if that's going to happen, but hopefully, I don't know. I would watch that episode of the Grammys. But I do think that it's going to be an important part of where we're going as a species. We're going to use them no matter what. And I do think we're already seeing that. If these are future humans, there's indications that we are, and we do, and we will. Depending on where you're looking at it at which point in time. So, yeah, I say, I don't know. I think the fear is that we won't be able to control it. Is that what you're asking? Like that's the fear that
it could threaten us.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. Just make a kill switch.
Yeah, as long as they don't become smart enough to get rid of the kill switch, right? I mean, because that's
we won't tell them about it. It'll be our little secret.
See, that's why you're the doctor.
I'm already convinced it's Skynet. We're already there. Skynet. Terminator.
No, there'll be a leak somewhere. Somebody will leak out the location of the kill switch.
That's funny.
Hey, I don't know. I always turn to Futurama for knowledge.
That's a good one too.
How the future will unfold with robots, because Bender wants to kill all humans. And there's, I'm
Is
kidding.
Bender your dog? Is Bender your dog?
No. I did think about naming my dog Bender, though. It's funny. My dog's named Indica.
Indica. Oh,
love it.
Some of you might know that reference.
I do reference that. So, Michael, I have a question for you. So, with your experience, I know you're an instructional lecturer, and what do you think about? Can you talk about us being the Greys in the future? Bill Skywatcher had a great question. Do you think those are us? Did we become underground dwellers? Perhaps lack of sunlight, or are there water changes? What has happened to the earth that has made us look so different? I mean, I understand we might not need our muscles to do things that get scrawnier, but why such a drastic change, or is it a vast amount of time? Yeah.
Well, it depends on what amount of time we're talking about.
Right.
If we're talking about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, no, those characteristics aren't really that egregious. Like Skinny Bob, I mean, given the accelerating rate of change to our craniofacial morphology, and the biggest trends for those who haven't read my books or aren't familiar with the theory is that we've had encephalization, an increase in the size of our brains, therefore an increase in cranial capacity, mostly in the parietal lobes. They've expanded mediolaterally, especially more recently with modern humans, characterized by what's known as neurocranial globularity. We have these big bulbous heads, but importantly, our brains also moved out over top of the eyes. That caused basicranial flexing. Our mid and lower facial anatomy got smaller and retracted, largely because the brain came out and expanded, and there's less time and space for facial growth once that happens. And our whole head had to rotate down once we stood up, started walking upright, whereas our quadrupedal cousins, and also the common ancestor of those that looks much more like a chimpanzee, still has a head much more in line with the rest of its body because it's oriented toward the visual plane. But as all of these things happened, we started to get bigger brains, smaller faces. So this is a point I apparently became aware of after reading my own book over the last few days. It is a very important part of this. It's a very long-term trend that just carried on because of the runaway brain train, which I clearly overused in that first book. So yeah, it's going to happen no matter what. What I did try to avoid, to get to Bill's question, is any speculation about what happens. Do we live underground? Do we live in space? I hear this all the time. People get like a glimpse of this theory and they go, oh, it's because we lived in space, or we played jazz guitar, so we got really long fingers, or we, the nukes came and we had to go underground, so then our eyes got big, so a little late. Maybe, I don't know. It's not my job to speculate as to what the future looks like and what environmental pressures are going to contribute to those. These have just happened regardless. And I do think, like, one thing, I mentioned Nolan's salt talk, where, maybe this, I don't remember where it was, but somebody mentioned something about, like, well, if they're just these ephemeral beings, they don't have a physical form, which is bogus, because clearly we're talking about physical things, both in their craft and their physical form. They're trying to make themselves look more like us, so we recognize them. We haven't recognized them. We thought they were space aliens for a really long time. And if that is what they're trying to do, look exactly like us. Why look like this thing that happens to look like something from tens of thousands of years in our future, regarding the Greys specifically, who can also interbreed with us. We can make these hybrids and make people that do look like us. And I do think those people are walking amongst us. And it's just a product of this hybridization program they have, where they have the physical form that we have, but then they possess the telepathy and the higher consciousness, the mesmerization abilities, and everything else that comes with it. So I think there's, again, a lot going on. Not trying to boil it down to anything, but I do think a lot of it does start with our future.
Interesting. I'm glad you mentioned the apes and that, because I wanted to ask you about Sasquatch. Do you have an opinion on if perhaps, why didn't Sasquatch evolve like we did? And could he or they be an extraterrestrial species in of themselves? What is your opinion on that, Mike?
Well, two thoughts. One, I like your drawings. And two, I have a very unpopular opinion about Sasquatch.
Oh, I love unpopular
let's
opinions.
hear it.
Oh, really? That's why I said that, in case you didn't want me to continue.
No, continue.
Permission
Granted.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think Bigfoot exists in this time and in this reality as an actual extant mammal who would clearly be primate if they were, because they're not only primate, technically, by definition, they'd be hominin because they're upright walking.
Right.
And we are the only ones that do that. That's how we define the hominin lineage, is that we are habitually bipedal. So to have another habitually bipedal, but more primitive with more ancestral traits, as we said, more hair, kind of a lumbering gait, big feet. I don't know if big feet was an ancestral trait or not.
Hobbits.
That would be interesting to compare. I mean, we look at foot morphology all the time, but not really size, just the orientation of the different metatarsals and everything. So anyway, I don't think they exist for two main reasons. One, and this is the most important one for me, is that all primates are social and curious. So they would have to live in big enough groups to sustain themselves, i.e. find mates, find food, make big enough populations that their offspring could find mates. But then the curiousness thing, like even orangutans would kind of peek around corners, and they were known as the old man in the forest. I think that's what orangutan means, actually, the old man in the forest in Borneo and Sumatra, because they have these, big faces, big round faces, and they look wrinkly, but they would still come out, and they're very smart, inquisitive people. I showed this video in my intro to anthro class where there's this one wild orangutan, not even domesticated, but wild, that saw women washing clothes next to a stream and just came and started washing clothes with them. And now every time she washes clothes, this female orangutan, wild, will come and sit with them, do the exact same thing, monkey see, ape do, and wash clothes with them, just because it finds joy in that. And it's inquisitive enough and smart enough that it can do that. So it doesn't make sense to me how Sasquatch could be so primate and so much like us, but not be seen all the time, like checking things out or hanging out at the bar doing shots with us or going through our dumpsters or something. It doesn't make sense. I have come to think, and I'd said this before, and I used to get pushback from people that there was a connection between UFOs and Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, whatever you want to call them. I think people have come around to that a little bit more. And in that case, I could see how that might happen. Because if there is a manipulation of space-time, and maybe a severe manipulation of space-time, or even, an interdimensional aspect to this, because we're talking about between the fourth dimension as interdimensional too. I think those are kind of one and the same. Then maybe it's possible that something kind of gets pulled in, but I don't think they're extant living creatures in this time on this planet. And people hate it when I say that, and I get a lot of hate mail.
I believe it or not, I agree with you.
What?
I do.
You're the first person that's never agreed with me about that.
I think they're connected to UFOs. I think they're a species in of themselves, an extraterrestrial species. I do. I agree with that.
Well, I don't think UFOs are extraterrestrial, so I guess we don't technically agree with each other.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
They're ultra dimensional.
I'd say our theories overlap, but there's also some diversion there. I would go as far as that they might be extra dimensional, and I had some friends tell me at Rice University that this is secondhand, but one of their friends who they trusted, again, this is getting far away from the original source, saw this thing materialize, like it's just its legs, and then its top was like this weird spinning thing, like in the show Dark, how he moves between times. And then it fully materialized as a Sasquatch and ran off into the woods. Right. Like if that's true, and this wasn't necessarily associated with a UFO that I'm aware of. Again, this is like third-hand information, but that scenario, as crazy as it sounds, still seems more believable to me than this self-sustaining population of large primates that we just don't see. I don't see how that could be.
I have to agree with that too.
Me too.
But do you think they're extraterrestrial? Or are me and Tara about to be best friends?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I don't know that they're extraterrestrial. I
Me
don't
and
know
Tara
what they
best
are.
friends now.
Yeah.
Let's gang up against Katie.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and you know, growing up believing Bigfoots were real and that whole thing. And and when I first started hearing people linking them to UFOs, it made me crazy. I'm like, that's stupid, you know, stop doing that. You're besmirching them, you know. But in time, when you really start thinking about the observations that are made, the behaviors that you're seeing, and then lack of things such as, you know, a sustainable community, bones, scat, and all those things. You know, you're thinking.
Which was the
matures,
second
and
thing I was
you-
going to mention, and I failed to mention that. So yes, I
You left
completely
out
agree.
the scat.
The bones and scat.
You
Yeah,
usually, you know, are full of scat.
I have a poop focus. You and I know each other well enough that most of
Yes.
my conversations do come.
Well, you
back
guys
to
have
people.
Goes with the job, right?
You have
But
not been to
finish
this.
what you were saying though, real quick. I want to hear the end.
Well, I
of
was just
this,
going to say,
think we agree.
I actually sort of overlap with all you guys now that my thinking has changed is that there's no question that they appear, right? There's photos, there's video, they make noises, they break things, there's footprints. So there's a physical reality to them. But all indications are that they can't be living their lives here because there would be much more evidence like you talked about.
Right.
But I think the concept that they can come into our reality and go out, which I think we're really talking about interdimensionality there, you know, is a possible thing. And when you even look at like the Skinwalker Ranch and the accounts there where this portal opens and this big looking thing steps out and you know goes across the ranch. I mean, there's, you know, it's anecdotal and stuff, but it just again, I had to change my thinking because of the evidence and you know and the logic that you apply. So you know, I'm in agreement that's most likely some kind of interdimensionality. And are they related to UFOs or is that coincidental? I don't know. And you don't always hear reports of UFOs linking to Bigfoot accounts. So I don't know if that's
But
kind of
they could have with the origination point too, where you know they bent space time enough that something came through a portal or whatever we want to call it, and then it exists on its own. Like, where the hell am I? You know, I just watched the Super Mario Brothers movie the other day because I got kids. And they get sucked through this tube, and it's like mushrooms everywhere. Sweet. You know, and I'd love to see what happens with this generation when they grow up with psilocybin. They're going to be like, this feels familiar. Jack Black taught me about this when I was a kid.
Yes.
But no, the other thing too is, you know, maybe they're messing with us. The trickster element is very much in play here. That maybe they're picking up Gigantopithecus from like, I don't know, 175,000 years ago in East Asia or whenever they existed. Probably much longer ago than that. I haven't studied this a lot because it hasn't been on my radar, but pick them up from whatever time they do exist, drop them off, let them run around in a place that people will see them, and especially if they're looking for them, that'd be even cooler. But then they're all sitting up there laughing a little bit, you know, like, oh, we showed them the thing they were looking for, and we're the ones that made it, and now it's just funny for all of us. So I don't know, maybe that could be the connection with UFOs too, because clearly, like I heard somebody say recently, Duncan Trussell, I think was his name. Like, all the intelligent people he's met are funny, you know. So if we're talking about the super intelligent race of entities, they weren't discussing the context of future humans, but why wouldn't we expect future humans to be very, very funny people? If they're intelligent and they're bored with the banality of reality like the rest of us are, why wouldn't they do stuff like that just to have a little bit of fun with the past? And especially at a time when we're getting so close to realizing who they are and what they're doing, why not interject a little Bigfoot just to screw with us? I could totally see them doing that.
That was my question to you, actually, was, you know, we have a unique sense of humor. And do you think that the us in the future has that sense of humor? And I particularly, I mean, you don't hear a lot about that with abduction cases and that these entities have senses of humor, especially our AI types. They are quite serious and almost, you know, worker bots. So you think the sense of humor is going to go along with us?
Well, I mean, who had the experience would be my question. I would answer that question with a question. And one thing I talked about in my second book is the memories too. And this comes back to circle back to the friend versus foe thing, because the correlation with the screen memories, the UFO amnesia, the UFO apathy, erasing people's memories completely seems to correlate with whether or not they had a good time. If they were freaking out, if they're screaming the whole time, everything seemingly is released and erased to try to help them be able to cope with it, because they do have to go back and integrate into reality. Meanwhile, you have people who are like, well, this is weird, but sweet, what the hell's going on up here? You know, what kind of tech you got back there? Can we go see that room? And they are allowed to remember everything. They get tours of the ship. They're hanging out with these people. They're sitting down at desks with them, having conversations. So yeah, I think the valence of the interaction is important for that. So yeah, if you're talking about someone who was picked up, they're anally probed, they had eggs and sperm extracted, and they have no idea what's going on, they hate it, that's going to be a very different situation and a very different way that they convey things, mostly because they can't convey any of it. So I think it depends on who that's coming from and sort of what their own experience was.
Right. Well, Mike, I have a question for you then on that line. So as we evolve, it's we're talking about sense of humor, but a lot of these experiences or contacts or whatever you want to say deal with telepathy and senses that apparently some people say we might have over 70 to 80 senses, but they're just so underdeveloped. We only have a few that are really being used. And is it possible that in the future our senses have become so developed that it's us coming back and it's talk about the language perhaps and how they can talk to everybody on the planet, and how is that telepathy? What other senses might be affected because of that over time?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I do strongly feel that telepathy is a capability of everyone. And in my first book, I had a conversation with Jeffrey Krapel, who's a professor of religious studies at Rice University, who was informed about my book. He was reading it and we're kind of talking back and forth. He's like, cool. Wait a minute. And he was angry about my materialistic interpretation of telepathy. And it wasn't my interpretation. It's just, and he eventually realized that I kind of have to do this in my position in the year 2019 when this book came out. I started writing in 2012. And I was very cautious about tying things that we might be able to do in the future with things we have now. Technologically, we have brain-to-brain communication, even back then with Libet's and other people's research. So I was looking at it in that context, but then eventually came to the conclusion, and largely because we don't all have brain implants, that this is just an aspect of our consciousness. And so he was like, all right, cool. And then we had a couple more like, hey, wait a minute moments. But no, I do think it's an aspect of our brains, and that's an aspect of our highly evolved consciousness that we all have the ability to use. We just don't know how. We haven't unlocked those sectors of our mind. I wouldn't even say brain. I would just say mind, where we haven't gotten to the point where we're able to use those, but we can still communicate telepathically with these beings. We can absolutely do that without any technology in our head. So yeah, I do think it's an aspect of consciousness. I think it overlaps with the phenomenon in a way that is probably a big part of why it's taking so long to get disclosure, because it depends on how far you go. I mean, if we're talking about highly evolved humans from millions of years ago, which I've never even said that until right now, we could be talking about a purely conscious entity. We could be talking about light as the thing that this was all structured around the entire time, that makes its way into all kinds of religious texts and things like enlightenment and seeing light and near-death experiences and being able to see timeless views all around us. I think all of it's probably related, but I do think that there's a time component to it. And it would kind of make sense. Whitley Strieber pointed this out too in one of his books, that I think it was Communion actually, that a photon is timeless. everything in the known universe is structured around that thing as a particle and wave. It's the speed limit of the universe. It's everything, and then you have to ask about the simulation hypothesis. Are we just inside a mainframe and we're just seeing the movement of all of these fiber optic, information channels? But it's a lot more complicated than people think. And I'm still eons away from understanding it.
Thank you.
Well, I think one thing too is that we all kind of evolve when we first get an interest in this topic. At least for me, it was very nuts and bolts. It's like, hey, what's that metal machine flying in the air, right? And the traditional biological entity in it. But as you get deeper into the subject and you learn more, you begin to realize and sort of embrace the woo-woo side of it, right? And that's what I think you're talking about is all.
No, I do too. Can we change that word? Because it does.
I don't like that word.
I think woo applies to a lot of like crazy ideas. But there's also we're going to have to start making a distinction. Like as I was just saying, there's a lot of things involved in this that involve consciousness and near-death experiences and psychedelic trips. And sorry, the only reason I'm latching onto this is because Katie hates it too. And she's had this show longer than anybody, as far as I can tell.
Yes.
No woo.
No, I think that
I like woo.
I think woo should be defined, is all I'm saying. Woo should be defined.
What word should we use instead?
Well, I think woo still applies to like crazy stuff people say. But my understanding, Shane, from what you were saying is that a lot of this isn't woo. It's like you go down this rabbit hole. You start with like Amy Michel said, Jacques Vallée's mentor, that you start with UFOs and next thing you know, you're studying Arab mystics. Like we go in this direction of like Eastern philosophy and religion and stuff. That's not woo. That's probably what it actually is. And a lot of it stems from it.
And
I think that's what you were saying. I think Katie and I are just trying to separate those.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And that's exactly what I was saying is that the term I'll use instead is consciousness, that whole pathway where it's not as well studied, it's not as well understood. But again, the observation is indicating that, there is this less tangible force or part of this whole phenomena that actually that's where the answers probably lie. It's not in the mechanical or whatever. It's beyond that. And that's, the new frontier, really.
Yeah.
It's really
I
cool.
completely agree. I mean, I think there is a technical component. Things are being reverse engineered, but like I was saying earlier too, like they can't fully understand how this craft works without that mindset, without that evolved consciousness, without knowledge of space-time that we don't yet have. So unless they're getting very specific instructions about how to reverse engineer it, which is possible, arguably, if we've had contact with them overtly since the 40s. Yeah. But no, I completely agree, Shane. I think it's, and I don't even think we should separate them in the context of the technology and the more philosophical side, anthropological side. I think there's a lot of overlap. But can you imagine trying to be the agents of disclosure right now? Where it's like all of these things we're talking about, and we're like, how do we tell people that are just watching like Sex Island and stuff? Where are we as a species? Are we ready to have this conversation? No, we're obviously not. Yeah. But it's happening.
So some of us are.
Somebody, most likely the visitors themselves, are initiating this process, and they're the ones in the middle are like, what do we do? And then they have to worry about their political careers, whether or not they were out in front of this. It's so fun to watch with some base knowledge of what's going on.
I agree with you guys, though. Unless we humans, unless we can conceive something, it doesn't exist. We have to conceive it and have the thought and think it for anything to be in existence, including extraterrestrials or us from whatever you want to label them, Sasquatch, all of it. And so what is your opinion then, Mike, about us being part of the creation of all the the word we're not going to say, the woo. and also, can you elaborate a little bit more on your opinions and beliefs on this simulated universe theory? Where do you lie with that?
Well, can I ask for clarification on the woo question? Because I don't.
Yeah. And how, like, the more I've studied and the more I researched all these different phenomenon, the more it seems to me that the observer or the experiencer really plays an important role in the sighting, in the abduction, in the phenomena itself.
Yes,
and I'm wondering are we
that...
creating it? Are we creating the phenomenon?
My question is, do you consider that woo or a part of what's actually probably happening?
I think it's normal woo. Is there normal woo?
I don't know. I guess
the woo scale.
Yeah, it's a sliding scale for sure, and that's what makes it hard to really say one way or another. But I think even in the last 3 years, like 3 years ago, maybe that was woo. Now, is it? I mean, and this is what's going to keep happening, is that a lot of things that we just always wrote off as being crazy are going to kind of maybe be real. A lot of things that we wrote off as crazy were probably insane, and they won't be, you know. And there's certain people who have been peddling stuff for decades because they're filling a void. We tried to alien the gaps the same way we guarded the gaps over the last 5,000-6,000 years. And that definitely happened with regard to this phenomenon. That's what I consider woo, is where people are just jumping out there and pulling something that, do we have FCC rules here or not? I don't know. Are we syndicated on a radio show?
Well, that's a good question.
Bill could answer.
I don't think so. Right? Bill.
Well, you're talking language.
I think we're good.
I'm talking language. So you pull something out of your ass and say, here, I found the answer to everything. Aliens are just whatever the hell I pulled out of my ass. Like, we've already started to separate that. The conversation that we're having now, even on UFO Twitter, is far more informed than 5, 6, 7 years ago. I mean, I haven't been involved in this conversation, but I've been watching it my entire life since I was a cognizant human. At the same time you get baptized, because you are considered to have logic. As soon as I got logic, boom, straight into UFOs. Because it is a very logical thing. And that's why I don't see the woo as being... I'm really glad we had this conversation, because I do think we need to separate it. So the stuff people pull out their ass, woo it aside. You know, cast it aside, not worth talking about. But there are a lot of things, especially related to time and space and consciousness and the interactions with each other and the hive mind and manifesting things, or at least having precognitive understandings about what's going to be manifested, which has been my experience my entire life. And at what point do you say, did I manifest this, or did I know it was going to happen because I saw that future and now I'm just doing the thing that I saw? So I think there's a lot involved in that question, but I definitely don't think that any of that should be cast aside. I think we're far too, as a society, that's going to be one of the last things we talk about. But again, that might be in 5 years. Look at the speed at which this is happening. You know, I think that's on the table and that's where we're going. But it's going to be one of the later. It's the dessert. It's the nice tart at the end of the long disclosure dinner.
Right. It's like we should have a woo list. And what you're saying is kind of like things that used to be considered a little woo factor, like even deja vu. Like deja vu. It's not even woo anymore. Like move it to that list.
Wu-Tang. Get the Wu-Tang to write a rap song about this to get
it's not even on the woo list anymore. That's just kind of
RZA,
top 10 of the
Yeah,
it's like now we call it a glitch in the matrix. It's just a glitch in the matrix.
And that reminds me, I never answered your last question about the matrix, which I will probably not answer because I don't know enough about it. But I did just come to the realization that if any of this is going to happen, there's mouthpieces, right? Like Tom DeLonge. The woo is going to have to be the Wu-Tang Clan.
We need more.
I'm serious. I'm serious about this because we need people to reach everybody, you know.
That's true.
And there's, you know, Tom DeLonge's got a following. He's only reaching certain people when you think about the entire global population. So, and I'm not saying everybody should just be an artist of some sort. I've loved the Wu-Tang Clan. I've seen them in concert 3 times. So when you say Wu, I say Wu-Tang. But I do think that it's going to take that same sort of Tom DeLonge model spread across, or maybe not. Actually, maybe we don't need everybody to be on board. Maybe there is a division that's supposed to happen where we don't have Travis Tritt trying to give disclosure, or I'm just pulling names out of my ass.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't have to be everybody involved. Maybe there is something happening where there's a split. You're paying attention or you're not. And I've heard this a lot over the last couple of weeks, like with people passionately saying it, like, are you paying attention? I almost feel like we feel like there's a split. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Michael, I want to ask you about academia and about, there's really this, like they were saying in even the meetings, the congressional hearing meetings, that it's science and engineering need to get involved in this subject as well. And so I know you're involved in that, but, what about the research that's going on? It used to be such a stigma that you couldn't, your tenure might be, at risk if you talked about UFOs or did any research on it, or could you get funds to do research? And do you, with you being in that kind of role, is there more awareness happening in our universities or education system? And what about science and engineering?
I think science and engineering at this point, if we are talking about crash retrievals and back engineering, is completely irrelevant, because we've already had science, material scientists specifically, engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, probably a lot of physicists already doing this, trying to figure out what these things are and how they work. So anybody that tried to jump into it now is probably 70 to 90 years behind. So I don't think that that's important at all. There are other aspects of this phenomenon that are unknown that might be important, and maybe they could contribute something. Yes, the stigma has definitely waned. I have benefited from that tremendously. Especially recently, like I mentioned, I think in my second book, how the chair of my department, when I asked him about this, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about publishing this book. And he was like, yeah, you should. This is exactly what we should be doing as scientists. And I've called out a lot of scientists over the years who don't care, or who turn a blind eye, who have that knee-jerk reaction. I've talked about the manufactured stigma and how we were used to try to make it all about swamp gas and weather balloons for so long. And we've definitely divided. Part of our role was to divide and conquer, because people trusted scientists. And then we started trusting ourselves. And I think now we're starting to realize that we were forced out of the conversation across Project Blue Book, Project Grudge, and everything else that happened. So I'd like to circle back to my question to you that nobody ever answered. Do you feel like there's a split? Okay. There's people that are paying attention. There's people that are not paying attention, trying hard not to pay attention. And then there's also people in the middle who are like, which side? Where do I go? Why does that exist? And I'm asking not because I have an answer, but I'm curious what you think. Why is that? Is it just about paying attention, or is there something more happening?
I think people are paying more and more attention with these hearings, and the more it's on, our news networks. But what's interesting is, and I've experienced this too, I think what happens is you have to absorb this mind-blowing information in little doses. And so, for example, I can go to a presentation for Colorado MUFON and learn about how we have Area S4 and how extraterrestrials absorb food through their skin and all this kind of mind-blowing information. And yes, it's anecdotal. We don't have proof of this, but whatever. But at the same time, at the end of that 2-hour session, I still have to go and do real world things. You still have to do your job, take care of your families, worry about your careers, and pick up medication and creamer for your coffee and make dinner. And I just think people don't know what to do with the information. I don't think it's necessarily that they're not paying attention. what do we do with the information once we have it?
Yeah, it's cognitive dissonance
Yeah.
and ontological shock. Shane, what do you think about it?
Well, I do think that, this will get a little complex, but maybe from like a political science or social perspective, look at humanity today, right? And you could say there are, I don't mean this to sound political, but I mean, you have kind of two camps. You have the spectrum of people that are left and right? You know, more liberal, more conservative. That happens in every nation on earth, right? So clearly there's some divergence in the ways people think and the things that they value, right? And that's just one example. There could be a hundred other examples. And what I think is that people, our society in the world is different today than it was at any other time. I mean, we truly are changing in a lot of ways. Maybe it is part of the evolutionary process, but with what we are being kind of bombarded with now, and it's just not just ufology, but just anything that there is a sort of a, to use your word, bifurcation of humanity and people, and there are people who are, excluding things like psychopathy and things like that. There are more people who are more aware of, let's say, the consciousness side or the empathetic side and, relation side. And then there are other people that just seem very detached from that kind of feeling and thinking. And so whether it's ufology doing this or just our own natural evolution, there seems to be a separating of people or of thinking or ideas. And I don't know if it's related to it or not, but I mean, just my point being that if you look at humanity, there are changes, there are things happening, and you can see it. You can see it in people's behaviors and the things that they value. So,
No, I completely agree. That's kind of why I asked the question, because that's what I've seen too, but didn't want to just say that. And if you think about progressive looking toward the future, conservative looking toward the past, I think we're at a point right now where we have to sort of decide whether we're looking toward the future or looking toward the past. And we've always been here, but in a political realm, not in a reality realm. Not that this might be an aspect of our upcoming reality where we choose to look forward or look back. And it seems like UFOs, I agree. I don't think it's what's causing it, but I think it's definitely something that's driving the wedge deeper, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm of the belief, first of all, this topic is bipartisan and should be. And secondly, I think that division you guys are talking about is by design. It's been my experience that we are being fed through I hate to say it, but mostly media, right? And other outlets, this division, and I have found personally that if I go sit at a table at a conference or sit among friends or with you, and I just have a heart-to-heart conversation about what we really value as humans, you're going to find that division that we all think is out there really is this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much closer.
Same.
I can have a judgment about somebody who I think is this way or that way, but when you really just have a heart-to-heart, you will find you have most things in common.
Well,
and I really believe the division is by divine, and maybe that speaks to ET and what's going to happen.
I think it does. Battle. I think the fact that we saw Matt Gaetz and AOC sit next to each other asking very informed questions where they were clearly briefed on what was happening to be able to even ask those questions, because neither of them have probably paid attention to this as much as we have over the last 90 years. Because obviously none of us were alive for that long either. But no, this is the thing, is that there's not a political element to this. That's not what I was saying. I was talking about future looking versus past looking. And yes, we do tend to clump into groups around that as a whole, but it's not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's not independent, or many of the other parties we should have that we don't in this country. It's about this thing that transcends all of that. It should transcend nations, and I think it's going to. It's going to transcend nations. The bipartisan relationships, or at least communion that we saw on Capitol Hill recently with this talk, I think is going to start to trickle into other nations too. I think it has to, because this is a human thing. This is not just, this isn't a political thing. And all these petty squabbles we've had in the political realm are just going to fade away. I think they have to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Michael, kind of changing the subject a little bit, but in one of your books, you talk about the electromagnetic anomalies and the correlation with UFO events. And I'm wondering if there's any science or anything that you know now that would it make sense that if we were coming back that we would go to where these electromagnetic fields in our Earth are? Would we be focusing on certain sites around the planet that actually have had sightings for over 200 years, probably?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, if there's some aspect of our Earth that requires that, then absolutely. If they're able to just, I do strongly think that they use the electromagnetic force to operate these arguably time machines for a few different reasons that I talk about in both books. One having to do with the fact that the electromagnetic force is 10 to the 40 times stronger than gravity. So if you're going to look for a force that can make you have anti-gravity capabilities, then clearly that's a good candidate. Do they need anything on Earth? Do they need a place that has anomalies to actually enter? I don't know. And there's no way I could know, I guess, but maybe. I mean, that could help explain things like Skinwalker Ranch, or the ranch where Katie lived, or Chris Bledsoe's ranch. I mean, maybe there's aspects about the electromagnetism there, but I guess my gut tells me no. My gut says they are in control of this technology, and they don't have to just do that. Maybe there's places where it's easier. What's her name? Cheryl Costa and her partner looked at a number of different places and found that there are correlates there. There's clusters there, and maybe that has something to do with it. But I don't know. I would like to think that if we're that advanced, we're just going to be able to dip in and dip out wherever the hell we want without regard to what's happening on Earth at any given time. But I don't know.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, not to mention the cows. We didn't even talk about cattle mutilations.
Nor should we. Those poor cows. What did they do? What did they do? You know what I think? Maybe they were looking like we need a biological sample. Well, they eat cows. That's actually the main food source for these people at this time.
Oh.
We don't want to kill anything, but if we got to kill something, it might as well be this. And it's real. It's very real what they're doing to the cows.
Yeah. And other animals as well, and possibly,
That's
I
true.
mean, I just did a show with Chris
had-
O'Brien, talked about human mutilations, talk about friend or foe. I mean, that's going to be a super interesting theme for this year's symposium.
It is. There might even be a couple.
Friend or foe.
Might even come to fisticuffs.
Oh, I know. I was just thinking that in my mind. Can you imagine sitting around lunch and dinner having this? I mean, this is going to be the topic, I think, of the whole weekend.
No, I'm glad they're
an
doing
interesting
it.
one.
I think it's great. It's a really important question. And there's no right answer. And it also depends on what your interaction is, who they are, where they come from, when they come from. But we're not going to be talking past each other. We'll be talking about the same thing, but hopefully coming to some sort of agreement. And I can't wait. I think it'll be a really fun conference.
Yeah, I think when you try to put human motives on other species. It's very difficult to do that. We don't know. I mean, even for us, what we consider good and bad is just our perspective on things.
That's a big part of my talk is how do we define this? Look at what we do to other animals too in a research capacity. And there's a lot of questions. I think it's going to come up, and it should. It's something we should all be talking about. So I'm really glad that they're structuring this conference around that. I can't wait. I'm so glad that you all will be there, except for you, Shane. You suck.
Yeah.
I know.
What the heck, man?
What the heck, man? thought we were friends.
Yeah.
Come out from my talk all the way across.
It's a long ride on my horse.
I know it's 3 flights for me. 3 flights, and it's not that far. I know. And I got to leave at 6 in the morning.
I know we only have a couple minutes left, but Shane just mentioned his horse, and that just made me think. So I'm thinking, okay, we possibly evolve into the grays and other. Do the animals also evolve? I mean, do the lions and the horses? Do they look strange too? Not that
just like the dinosaurs.
Not that you look strange, but to me, you do. You know, do they evolve like that as well?
Who are you asking? Me?
Mike.
Yeah, you.
You gave me 1 minute to ask that question.
Yeah, go now.
I'll answer that next time. I'll answer that in Cincinnati.
Oh, cliffhanger.
I'll give you first question and then Q&A after my talk.
I'll be the plant in the audience.
About tiger and lion abduction.
Evolution.
That's awesome. No, that's an interesting question. All right. Now everybody has to come to the symposium so they can hear the answer to that question.
Tigers are abducted.
Oh my gosh. Well, Dr. Mike Masters, I went formal again because it's the end of the show, but it's been a pleasure having you on. And I'm so glad we snagged you. And I didn't even get to the clip. You sent a little video clip of a program you just did in another language, and I had to giggle.
It's all in
the closed caption. It's all in Russian. I put the closed captions on. It was fascinating.
I never even thought to do that. I never even thought to do that. That's so funny. I'm going to go watch it because I was just like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, put the closed captioning on.
I forgot that was even an option. Here I am writing about future technology, and I didn't even think about boom, boop. Oh, I know what this is.
That's great. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you to our listeners. Shane, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Next week, we feature another speaker from the MUFON Symposium, which is Mike Cleland, and it's fascinating, his research on the owls, and his friend or foe will be a great discussion with him as well. So we hope to see you next Tuesday night. Tara, thank you. Thank you to Bill Skywatcher, our producer,
nice
and
you too, Michael.
We will see you all next Tuesday night on MUFON What's Up. Don't forget to report your What's Up. Report them to MUFON, and have a great night, everybody. Bye.
Bye.